Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dylan Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for geekvibesnation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Attic new release roundup. As always, I am so excited. We have some really great titles to talk about, but I'm going to throw it over to you to get us started.
I appreciate that. My first title is one that I didn't even know that I needed in my life, but then they announced it, and it was just all my dreams came true. And that is the Sony Pictures Classics 30th anniversary 4K Ultra HD set, which you recently talked about the Columbia Classics set, which was 6 films and exclusively in 4K, which was amazing. I loved it. And I'm going to be doing a similar thing where I'm going to break up these titles. That was 6 films. These are 11 films. And I'm not going to make everyone sit through all 11 this first time. I'm going to continue next week. I'm going to do 5, and I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible because I know people have a limited capacity for hearing me talk about these movies for that long a time. But these aren't in order. I'm going to go in chronological order of what I watched, but I'm kind of jumping around this stuff based on what I watched. And the first film that I want to talk about is one that I would like. If you gave me a trillion guesses of stuff that would come to 4K, I would never guess. And this is the Celluloid Closet, which is a 90s documentary, which I don't really think about documentaries hitting 4K that often, but here we are. This is like a much better version of this other documentary I watched earlier this year called Color Me Lavender, which was also from around the same time. But this is exploring basically gay representation through cinema, but in like this, it's a really groundbreaking doc for the time especially. And it's like really interesting to go back to this time to see what where we were at in the early 90s in terms of like thinking about gay representation on screen and how they were exploring cinema of the past. And you have a lot of great like modern interviews and like explorations of like cinema of the past. You have Lily Tomlin narrating, and you just get to just really dive into how gay representation has been like portrayed throughout cinema, how it's been suppressed, how it's been like edited out, and all that type of stuff. Like you have like really interesting scenes like during the filming of Ben-Hur. I can't remember the character's name, but there was a scene where like there was the Charlton Heston character and one of the other characters, they couldn't really figure out a plausible backstory for why they hated one another. But so the screenwriter was like, what if they were just like lovers in the past, but they didn't like they had a falling out or whatever. But they knew that Charlton Heston would not like fly with that, knowing that his character was gay. So they told like the other actor, and he played it as if he knew that they were a couple in the past. But then like Charlton Heston, he like played it like differently. But it's just like it's interesting to put that scene into context with that information of like this is how that scene turned out, with that kind of like underlying knowledge of like it is queer coded, but they're really trying to like bury it, and like how that impacts like the larger like audience and community. It's just a really thorough, really interesting documentary. Of course, it's not all encompassing. It is the early 90s, so we've had so much more like advancement since that time. But just as a time capsule of this period, it's really super interesting, and it like really looks like surprisingly good for like this type of movie in 4K. There's a lot of different types of material, but all of it kind of like goes really like it's a very homogenous, like well like rounded presentation. It looks really nice. Like it's like for a vintage documentary, it's like way better than I would have ever expected. For this one in particular, they have some pretty good special features. This comes with the original 2.0 soundtrack. They have 2 commentary tracks, a bunch of outtakes, and some interviews, like exclusive interviews on here. So Celluloid Closet, if you're into that type of like exploration of like homosexuality in cinema, this is like one of the granddaddy documentaries. It's really great. I will not have to like explain too much about this next film because it's beloved, but this is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. which is the only film in this set which has previously come out in 4K, but this is exclusively in Dolby Vision in this set, so you get the Dolby Vision upgrade. It does lose the Blu-ray disc, but all the special features are on the 4K disc, so you don't lose out on any special features, and you get Dolby Vision. So basically, you get a Chow Yun-fat and Michelle Yeoh, which we stand Michelle Yeoh on this podcast. Like, I'm really rooting for her for Best Actress for Everything Everywhere, like this coming year. But this, like, Best Picture nominee from the early 2000s. I believe this came out in 2000. About two master warriors, and like there's like a green sword that is stolen, and they are trying to get it back. And then you also have Zhang Ziyi as like a young like princess who is about to like enter into marriage, but she also has like some hidden secrets and talents and everything. And it's just basically a beautiful movie shot by Ang Lee of like a mixture of like martial arts and romance, and you have that crazy wire work that like was like epitomized that early 2000s. Like everyone like went crazy over this. You had people hopping over trees, and it's visually striking, it's narratively very moving, the acting is incredible. It was probably like, it maybe should have won Best Picture the year it was nominated. I'd have to reevaluate all these movies, but it is a stunning movie, and it looks really great in Dolby Vision. I do not have the old 4K to compare it to, but like I would assume this is probably just maybe slightly better, like encoding wise, but it's a really great disc. And if you're a fan of this movie, it's never looked better. It's incredible. It carries over all the legacy features. You also get 2 commentary tracks on this, some deleted scenes, a retrospective featurette, some other featurettes. It's a pretty stacked release, and it looks great, sounds great. This is the only title that has Dolby Atmos audio, along with the original 5.1. All the other titles in this set retain their original audio, be it 2.0 or 5.1 tracks, which the next one is 5.1, and it is one that I had a lot of fun watching last night. I had actually never seen this, and this is Guillermo del Toro's The Devil's Backbone, which I just saw you recently reference in a review for his Cabinets of Curiosity review, which so I was like, ooh, I just watched that. That's fun. But this, like, I have the Guillermo del Toro trilogy from the Criterion Collection. I had unfortunately not dug into that yet, but I just like jumped straight to 4K. And this is such a great movie. It's like a really interesting blend of like political allegory and like a ghost story, but it's like very contained within this one. It starts out with the death of a child, and the death is hidden away in like this pool in the basement of this like kind of orphanage during the midst of the Spanish Civil War. And throughout this, you are a new child is brought to the orphanage, and you kind of see him exploring and like learning kind of the secrets of this orphanage, kind of eventually immersing himself like in this world of this like dead ghostly child, and kind of unearthing the secrets, which kind of just shows the like the depths of depravity of man. It's really beautifully shot. It's really well paced. I was actually afraid that it was like I actually watched this alone because I know my wife is a scaredy cat and she doesn't like demons or anything. But I learned there's no reason for her to be afraid. This isn't as frightening as I expected to be, but it's very narratively rich. It's a really great movie. So this also looked really amazing in Dolby Vision. It comes with a great deal of special features. Once again, 2 commentary tracks. It seems to be a theme with this set. There's like 2 commentary tracks, some deleted scenes, a making of. This is a great representation of the movie. If you're a fan, they did it justice. Next one, once again, not a contender that I would have thought of for 4K, but I'm glad I got it, and that is Still Alice with Julianne Moore, her Best Actress winning work. She plays a character who is a professor who gets diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's through like a genetic condition, and it's basically about her reckoning with her condition and losing her mind and losing like how she responds to her diagnosis, how it impacts her family. While the spotlight is very much on Julianne Moore, the supporting cast is really great too, including Kristen Stewart does an amazing job as one of her youngest daughter. This is a really heart-wrenching movie, and while like narratively it's not the most daring, it's more kind of like conventional, like declining health drama. I think the performance is kind of elevated, especially Julianne's. Like, just her performance is so like stunning that it like devastated me in the best way. But it's this is one that I had kind of been avoiding because I was kind of dreading being that miserable. But like it was worth it just to see her performance, and like it, once again, this looks really great in Dolby Vision. This has like 3 deleted scenes, some featurettes, and some interviews, and like the original audio, like I said. And so, still Alice, it's devastating, but very good. And then my final of these particular 5 titles, I know a lot of people are excited about this, and that is Call Me By Your Name. Another Best Picture nominee with old Timothy Chalamet and He Who Must Not Be Named, Army. This once I remember seeing this in theater, and like seeing this again in Dolby Vision, it like took me back. It looks so sumptuous, and just like these countrysides that they're in, like just really pop in 4K. It's just like this beautiful like story of young love and like learning about your like learning about yourself and like learning new layers and like falling in love in like the Italian countryside and like heartbreak and just all of that like bittersweet loveliness. It's Timothy Chalamet. I had known him in a few roles before this, but this was obviously his breakout role, and he does an amazing job here. Despite the problems with Armie Hammer, he also does a good job in this one. And then Michael Stuhlbarg, who plays Timothy's father, he like delivers one of the best performances of the whole movie. It's just like it's a really small role as his father, but it's like essential to the whole movie, especially like a specific monologue he delivers at the end. It just is gutting, but like it's so rewarding. Up until like you get to the credits, that's like a sustained shot on Chalamet. This is just such a powerful movie. I really love what Luca Guadagnino did with this, and it's just like it's gotten even better since I first watched it in theater. So I am glad to have this on 4K. So yes, these 5 titles here are a good start to my journey through this 4K collection, and I will do the remaining 6 as quickly as possible next week. So stay tuned. It's a really great set so far.
Yeah, that's great. I was like you, I was very surprised about the Celluloid Closet. And I know that and Salt Lake City Punks was kind of like the like really exciting wild cards, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really interesting to re-watch Celluloid Closet because I had actually seen that like early days of like maybe it was like the independent film channel would run like documentaries during Pride Month. And that was part of that. So that was pretty cool. So I'm also talking about some 4K titles, but very, very different. One's very prestigious and one, let's just say, is not. You can probably guess which. So from Kino Studio Classics, I'm going to be talking about Mystery Men in 4K and Blu-ray and High Plains Drifter.
Nice.
So which do you think was the prestigious film and which do you think was the not so prestigious?
Obviously Mystery Man, because like wasn't it a Best Picture nominee? Wasn't
yeah, I'm pretty sure. So I'm gonna just dig right in with Mystery Men, and this was something that I was a little mixed feelings wise because it doesn't have a great reputation, but I was pleasantly surprised. But let's check out the packaging first.
I wanted nothing more than to see this movie when I was younger. I was so hyped when it came out.
What did you think when you finally saw it?
I do not remember, so that's why I'm excited to revisit this. But I remember, I think I liked it. So like hearing that it's had a bad reputation over the years really bummed me out.
Yeah, it bombed very hard. So
Yeah.
there's usually never reversible art with this, but there are the discs. So yeah, I'm trying to think like the best way to really describe this film. um it's basically it comes in this it's so it came out in 1999, so this is definitely an early film to kind of imagine how superheroes would fit into a the quote unquote real world. So this is post the Watchmen, but kind of predates things like the Invincibles and the Boys, the latter of which feels like this almost feels like the Boys but very light, very light. So it kind of came, and I think it also kind of comes right on the heels of like Joel Schumacher's Batman movies, which I will reference back to. But yeah, so keeping that in mind, it was a really interesting sort of time capsule of a movie. And the movie does have its issues. It clearly does not need to be too like slightly over 2 hours long. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Some of the jokes just frankly do not land. But I will say I had a good time with it overall. For every joke that kind of didn't maybe land, there's maybe two more that I thought were pretty funny. The cast is stellar. Everybody, for such a big cast of character actors, everybody kind of feels on the same page. And for as goofy and ridiculous as it is, you really do feel like it is one cohesive kind of fever dream. um, and yeah, so it's, I also kind of love how over stylized it is. Again, pulling back to what I said about Joel Schumacher, this very much feels like it could live in the same world as those movies. So take that for what it is. If you like those movies, the Joel Schumacher movies, you probably would like Mystery Men. If you find that kind of grating, you might not. Again, I had a good time. It does have some cringe moments, but I think that like for a late 90s movie, it's not too bad in that department. And I don't believe any of these features are new. I believe that those are all legacy, although of course, it is a brand new HDR and Dolby Vision master from a 4K scan of the original camera negative, and it looks really great. I mean, especially for like a late 90s movie, when you have something this visual, that is very bright and bombastic and colorful, you really want something like this in 4K, and it looks really great. So there's no artifacts. It does have good use of the HDR, but there is a little bit of temperature flux that I saw, not enough to really be distracting, but it's there. But overall, if you it's definitely one of those cases, if you're not really looking for it, you might not kind of notice it. So it's, looks and sounds really good. And then we have a very different movie, High Plains Drifter. Now, have you seen this one?
Yes, it's been a couple of years. I got the Blu-ray when it came out a couple of years ago from Kino.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I will say, it has been a while since I've seen this movie, so revisiting it, I was a little like put off by the fact that our hero, good old Clint Eastwood, like sexually assaults one of the townspeople within the first, I think, 15 minutes of the movie. And it's like weirdly sort of like weaved into the over, I mean, not really into the plot, but I mean, it is a plot point that kind of comes back a few times. It's very cringe. I don't know. I feel like I should probably just mention that because that can be a trigger for some people, and the topic of separating the art from maybe some not great things is very complex, and I won't be on my soapbox about that. But just to say, if you can get kind of past that, I think it is still really an enjoyable movie. I kind of see this as a beautiful love letter to like Italian westerns. I mean, obviously Eastwood kind of really got his start with Sergio Leone, and I also kind of felt like this was not only like a nice homage with a 70s update, but it also kind of felt like a little bit of a remake of oh, why am I blanking on it? Bad Day at Black Rock. And I kind of love how it's like this sleepy small town that has like these like sins, these like really awful things that have kind of happened, and then there's the reckoning, and just the finale of just painting that town red and literally naming it like Helltown, and just that whole set piece is great. Jeffrey Lewis is in this, and he is such a fan. He's always fantastic, but he plays such a great villain. So I will say, like, this movie really has never looked better. This is by no means a colorful film, but I think you do get a really nice, crisp, clean look to everything. There's a little bit of like blurring that I noticed, but again, I really think that this is it's not very distracting, but I think it's also maybe chalk it up to like how it was filmed. Like there's definitely some softer looking um like visuals that maybe aren't as crisp and clean and defined as you'd want, but again, I think that's more of um the visual style of the film and not necessarily anything to do with the restoration. Night
Yeah.
scenes definitely really showcase just how like there's a uptick in clarity and depth and field. And yeah, I've seen this a few times in other formats, and again, I can kind of say that I don't think this movie's ever looked like this great before. So if you're a fan, this is kind of the time to get it. And as we always kind of say, if you want these slipcovers, you want to get them as soon as possible. So two very different movies, but pretty fun. I mean, it makes a really weird double feature if that's kind of what you're into.
Why wouldn't you be? Yeah, it seems like Kino's on a big kick of upgrading all their Clint Eastwood movies. So like, I'm on board. I'm here for it. So just like keep them coming. I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, and I forgot to mention this, but this is kind of interesting because this is the first Western that Clint Eastwood directed himself in. So,
Oh wow.
and I was doing a little bit of research on this, and apparently John Wayne hated this movie, which I thought was
All right.
interesting.
Yeah.
Like he thought it wasn't a honest portrayal of the Old West, whatever the heck that means, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. I'm not gonna get into the John Wayne stuff. I'm sure he had problems with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But anyway, oh, speaking of forgetting to mention stuff, if you want, or if you are interested in seeing more of my Sony Pictures Classics set that I just featured, I did do a separate unboxing video that we can link in the notes, but I go very in depth, probably more depth than anyone wants, but like I went very in depth on the packaging. So shout out to that. My next title is from Lionsgate, and that is The Good House with Sigourney Weaver and Kevin Kline. And I have to say, this makes it look like a lighthearted like romance movie. It is not that. It is a very dark drama. I mean, yeah, it's pretty dark drama. So Sigourney Weaver, she plays a woman. She is a realtor. She is her husband, like from like a few years prior to like the events in the movie, she is like her husband left her to be with another man. She has like problems like with like alcoholism, and she's just kind of basically her family's very concerned about her, especially her drinking, and like she doesn't think she has a problem. She's kind of more of a social drinker and stuff. But like things kind of keep like piling on, and she keeps hiding her drinking, and this is basically like a drama about her. Kevin Kline plays like a handyman slash guy she's always known and kind of had a flirtation with in the town, but it's very much situated on Sigourney Weaver, her character, and like her battles with like uh coming to terms that she does have a problem, that she has trauma from the past that she has not processed, and just how people hold on to that kind of like generational trauma. And they're like, this also is reflected in like some of the people in the community that are also like dealing with their own things. Like some ensemble people in this include like Morena Baccaran, from people might know most from like Firefly, and then uh, uh, can't remember his name. Uh, he was in Catastrophe, and his name is Rob. That's what I know. And he's like Rob Delaney. Sorry, got it. Rob Delaney. He is another supporting character. I kept wanting to say Rob McElhaney, but I'm like, I do not want to say the wrong name. No, Rob Delaney is in this, and just he is one of the people that like. There's just a lot of trauma in this town, and just like everyone like is too afraid to kind of talk about it, and it kind of does manifest in some like tragic ways in the end. But it's a very interesting character study, and like there is some like lighthearted moments. Is some like a decent romance between Sigourney Weaver and Kevin Kline, but this is a really tough movie. I wouldn't just put it on as like I want a lighthearted watch, because that's what I kind of thought going into it. But I was like, ooh, this movie's heavy, which was fine at the time, but it's just not what I expected. But it is well done. Like, it's not like the best movie, but it's like a very solid drama, like adult drama. It's like way better than like your standard Lifetime movie, which another movie I talked about from Lionsgate last week, Gigi and Nate, really didn't like elevate itself more than. But this one, it's like a solid, like small to mid-budget drama. It's a team player. It's not gonna like blow your mind, but it's like entertaining enough. It does come with an audio commentary track with that from the co-directors and co-writers of the movie, and like no other real special features, but you do get a commentary, so that's always a win. So if you're interested in like a heavy domestic drama, The Good House, that's fine. If you're not interested, I completely get it. Just keep on moving.
Sounds like it was an adequate house.
Not bad, Michael. Not bad.
No, this was a recent movie, you said?
Yeah, this came out like at the end of September in theaters, and now we got it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, no, that sounds interesting. I like that cast, so that might be worth it just for them.
Yeah.
I don't know, a good transition into my next one. It's very different, and that is the Unguarded Moment from Kino Studio Classics. And look at this cover. There's a lot going on in this here.
Passion.
And yeah, so no reversible art, you just have the disc. And yeah, this was one I had never heard of. I was really curious because of the cast. Esther Williams, who everybody kind of remembers as the $1 Million Mermaid, is in a rare non-swimming I mean, this was a decent budget movie, but like not like a big sort of splashy, sort of literal splashy, yeah. But yeah, so this is sort of a really interesting mixture of juvenile delinquent movie and film noir, which I think is kind of a really interesting mixture. This teacher, played by Esther Williams, is getting these mysterious, really creepy letters. She thinks it's from one of her students, but she makes a lot of just really bad choices, and they think that she's having not great relationships with her students. I'll just put it like that. It's a little risque for the time, I will say, but like this has a very young John Saxon in it, which I think is really fascinating. I think he was, gosh, maybe in his early 20s, if even that. He might have actually been a like late teenager at this point, but It's really interesting to see just, how like they don't have a picture of him on here, but like just, a stunning young man in his 20s. But anyways, yeah, it's really kind of unnerving. It's again, it's sort of a juvenile delinquent film, but it also is this like murder mystery. Like they don't really hit the murder much, it's like something they weave throughout, but like just the kind of danger and creepy stuff that happens to Esther Williams' character is really provocative for the time. Edward Andrews plays John Saxon's dad, and he gives one of the creepiest, unnerving performances. He has this monologue where, he basically tells John Saxon's character that like all women are evil, they're awful, and if you don't um shape up and basically like stay with him in the house and don't go out with girls, or he will break every bone in his body. That's how he ends this monologue to John Saxton, but he delivers it just like such a creepy psycho. And it's kind of one of the great performances. I love it. It is, again, it is such a weird film. It's not particularly well written. There definitely are like sloppy sort of plotting and through lines. In the commentary, they go throughout like some earlier drafts of the script that were a little bit more cohesive and kind of fix some narrative issues. Fun fact, this was written by Rosalind Russell, and this was
Oh,
actually, yeah, this was actually meant for a vehicle for her, but she felt that, I know they mentioned it in the commentary track, but like for whatever reason she passed on it. And I if I'm remembering this correctly, it was also maybe supposed to go to Doris Day, but did not. So yeah, this has a really great commentary track from our friend of the channel, David Del Val.
nice.
He is paired up with David Dakota, who is a cult filmmaker. Whenever they get together for a commentary track, it's always a lot of fun, but it's very informative. They all have really great information. David Delval has a lot of history with a lot of these actors. He met and knew a lot of these people in like on a personal level. So I love that. It kind of makes for a really rich and interesting perspective.
Mhm.
And this also has a commentary from Jason Nay and a trailer. So really great. It's just like I said, it's just a really weird little film. It really looks great. This is comes from a brand new 2K master. There is a little bit of like artifacts and scratches, but like not a whole lot. You can tell it's been cleaned up really nice, and it's not a particularly colorful movie, but the colors um that are going on in it really do pop nicely. So um yeah, it's kind of a rare kind of movie prior to this. So it's like fun to see this out now, looking great. Again, it is a really weird little psycho thriller. And I'm glad that it's maybe getting a new life on home video.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see that. There was a movie that came to mind whenever you were talking about that. I think would probably make a pretty good double feature. I reviewed it last year. It's called The Accused with Loretta Young,
Mm.
where she plays a teacher who one of her students gets a little bit too invested in her, but then whenever that student ends up dead, she's trying to kind of evade suspicion and the law and all that type of stuff. So it's kind of like a similar like murder, like inappropriate student relationship. Like I think there's similar themes going on there that could be a pretty interesting double feature.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I'll be sure to link that one in description. That was from 1949.
Yes, also from Kino Classics. So you're good with just sticking with Kino for these.
Absolutely.
Um, Yeah, my next title, it's a TV series that has come to a conclusion. It is one that I have reviewed on the site before. So if you want to see me get like more in depth on it, you can go read my season 2 review from when it was released. But this is A Discovery of Witches,
Mm.
the complete trilogy. And this trilogy comes in like a nice like facsimile of a book. This is a slipcover, but it looks really
Mm.
nice here.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show that off. You got some like nice kind of embossed, like maybe you can see a little bit like embossed. It's pretty cool. And it includes all 3 seasons. Over here, I believe this aired on IFC. I don't know. I've only watched it on Blu-ray, but so you got the slipcover that comes off. Here is underneath. I'm pretty sure this is a UK production because it aired on like Sky Television over there. And you open up and you have like a kind of little letter from the author of the books it was based on, Deborah Harkness. And then you have, I'll just kind of unfold it here. You got each disc has its own kind of holder right here, which is not my favorite packaging, but it's like such beautiful packaging that, and Blu-rays are, at least are a little bit more durable. I'm hoping that I can avoid like any scratches and everything. So, whoops. It's a final, and then you got kind of like this little bookmark here, which is a nice touch. And I'll show off this back page. It looks kind of wild. So yeah, got this nice book packaging, 6 discs, 3 seasons. Basic overview of this series is it's Teresa Palmer plays a reluctant witch. She's a witch, but she kind of tries to deny that part of her like being and family heritage until one day she discovers a book with like a whole bunch of secrets that she has to try to reckon with and unlock and like get to the bottom of, along with this help of this vampire who I forget the actor's name. That's awful. Matthew Good. I love Matthew Good. I don't know why, like it just popped out of my head. But Matthew Good, he plays kind of like the her ultimate like one true pairing, one true love. But throughout this is a supernatural show, but it is more so like a more romance driven show. It's not going to have like a lot of like huge like action set pieces or anything. There is witchcraft throughout, but it is like very grounded in character and romance and like interpersonal interactions. It's just a very comforting, like nice show. Sometimes like the second season, a large part of the second season takes place in the past, in like the 1600s, 1700s. It all kind of starts to blur together when you're that far back, but sometime way in the past. So there's like some like kind of like time travel-ish elements to this as well, kind of like Outlander-ish. But this is a really interesting story. Like if you're like into kind of like that romantic, like witchcrafty type like aesthetic, and like you like kind of that type of show, Discovery of Witches is very entertaining. It's not perfect. It does have like some narrative like hiccups here and there, but overall, I did like how it ultimately concluded, even if it kind of just seemed like it just kind of ended without like a like grand conclusion. But you're just like, okay, that works. Like that's kind of like it is satisfactory. So if you're a fan of this is a good package. The only thing that I do not approve of is the DVD size of the packaging, but you can't get everything. But it's a good package overall. It has like over 80 minutes of special features, and it's got all 25 episodes. It's featurettes, all kinds of stuff. So solid release.
Nice. Yeah, that is like one that I haven't seen yet, but it looks interesting. It like I remember maybe like seeing a little bit of the first season and maybe just not connecting with it, but that sounds like a good excuse to maybe try that again.
Mhm.
My next one is one that I was really curious about, and I didn't get to see it in theaters, and now I kind of wish I would have because it's such a visually stunning movie, and that is 3,000 Years of Longing.
Mm.
And now there is also a 4K version of this, just so you know, and then here's the back. And so this does have a digital copy that's just not in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, this was great. I really wasn't sure what to expect with this, and I purposely didn't watch any trailers. I wanted to go in just as like just completely like blank. And yeah, it was really something. The legendary George Miller directs this spellbinding fantasy film, and I guess the best way to describe it is just a bunch of different vignettes in the forms of stories that's kind of beautifully woven into the theme of like stories and um like Tilda Swinton's character, her literal career is about contextualizing stories and mythologies, and she meets a djinn played by Idris Elba, which whew, you know but, uh,
Calm down. Calm down. You're
well,
melting the screen.
yeah. Well, I can't help that. But I love how this movie really like harkens back to like kind of classic, not only tales like the Arabian Nights, but almost like a lost sort of art of, huge budget, high fantasy films like that kind of dealt with stuff like the Arabian Nights. And but it's really done in such a way that's like very thoughtful. It's very like tonally it's very like whimsical but also very serious. There's a lot of like very harrowing stuff. The ending did get me. It was very bittersweet. I'm assuming you've seen this, right? I thought
I have not. I haven't watched my
uh,
copy yet, but I'm very excited to because it's one of
yeah.
my more anticipated. Despite mixed reactions, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, that's interesting that I saw that it got maybe like some very divided reviews. I thought it was just I understand how like if you're more into something that's a little bit more traditional narrative wise, it could be a little jarring, but again, I see this more as like a sort of like I'm trying to think how I want to put this. Like it's kind of like just beautiful poetry in film form, which sounds so pretentious when I say it out loud, but I don't know. There's just something really special and interesting about this storytelling, and visually, it's fantastic. So this was shot by John Seal, who worked with Miller on Mad Max Fury Road, and that movie is just so just almost overwhelming with its visuals. So you can kind of imagine how this looks. It's just there are many scenes that just look like you could pause it and frame it as works of art. It's great. So I was a little bit disappointed that it doesn't. There's like really nothing on this release. But again, it is shot kind of on digital, like so it's a newer film. It looks great. I could definitely see where a 4K might look a little bit better, but if you do just kind of want that like Blu-ray DVD, like slightly more inexpensive option, it still looks really great. I don't know if you can mess up these beautiful visuals in any kind of format. So you're good. I do think I want to eventually get this on 4K. It is such a fantastic movie. I'm trying to be really vague because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's really fantastic. It's like has such a great ending, which I won't spoil, but yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Yeah, going to bump that even higher up my list because I need to watch that soon, and I'm very excited because George Miller, like anything you want to throw at me, just bring it on. So my next title, I think this is one that you especially would really like. So it's just basically my pitch to you. And I'm curious to know, you might actually know the subject of this documentary. So it's a documentary. It is from Brink Vision and NBD Entertainment, and that is Every Other Day is Halloween, which is a documentary about the horror host played by Dick Dizelle, but it is Gore Delville. Also, he played Bozo the Clown and Captain 20. Yeah. It was like this man. It started back in the 70s. It's a documentary about it's basically a love letter to public access like TV making and how it kind of impacts generations of people to like explore like the weird and like creative sides of themselves. And like especially like Gordelvel, he was like a character more driven to adults. Like they joke there was like people like in their 20s like got home from the bar drunk and just like turned it on, because this is like a horror host in the tradition of like Elvira, where it's like some kooky segments introducing classic horror movies, and just like weird humor, but then also the real person Dick, like his kind of want to focus on that, but like the station that he was working for wanting to lean more into like the children's programming with like Bozo the Clown and like Captain 20, and like how children's programming evolved over the like kind of the years, and the introduction of like different regulations on what should be like constitute children's programming, and just how that kind of infringed upon like the public access space. And then it's also how this character like did resonate with so many people. So you have people who have went on in the creative space or like even become horror hosts themselves, talking about how like it blew their mind whenever they saw like this guy whenever they were young on public access TV, like introducing these, like exposing them to these like classic horror movies, a lot of which I'm sure we probably already like covered on this show because we love like classic like sci-fi and horror and everything. But just like how it inspired them, their love of horror and like their creativity, and how he has like endured as a character over the decades. Like the start in the 70s, he went away for a few years, came back in the 80s, and then like he was one of the first horror hosts to like embrace the internet. And I will say this documentary, I believe it is like a little like quite a bit old. I think it was like from 2009 if I'm not mistaken. This isn't a brand new documentary, but like at the time it was especially showing like how like he had to like give up public access for like a broader reach on the internet, and how he was like utilizing the internet to get like his show out, and how he's a performer and wants to get out to people. So this is a really interesting documentary. I will say it is on Blu-ray. It is not the most like visually dynamic. It like how you picture a public access show is kind of how the whole thing is shot. It's kind of like not quite VHS quality, but it's kind of like has that soft look. It's just very like cheap is a bad word, but it does feel kind of like a very standard documentary. Like someone went and got like a video recorder and just started kind of going to people. But the content within it is so like rewarding, like the interviews and just like learning about this specific character. It's like a really great documentary. And it's like this Blu-ray is actually really stacked. There's like an entire other documentary called Bald-Headed Blues, which is like about another figure that is featured in this documentary. There's a ton of like deleted scenes. There's like audio commentary. There's like there's like probably over 4 hours of special features on this. It's pretty wild. And then also, I'm not sure if I showed the interior, but this is the disc art, and it comes with like a special card that they talk about in the documentary. This is called like the Channel 20 Club Card. So
Oh,
you can like
nice.
have like a collectible card as well. So that's pretty like a pretty nifty feature. So especially like for someone like you and like I who like appreciate like the art of like preserving horror and like hosting and like just like kind of getting that out to a wide audience, like that art of like entertaining while like informing. This is a really, really fun documentary. So every other day is Halloween. Is it like it's not for everyone, but for a specific audience, you're really gonna love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never met that specific horror host. I did get to meet Zachary before he passed away. He was really
Oh,
nice. And there was another Chicago-based horror host that I met who was quite a character named Dr. Creep. And
mm,
when I met him, he was telling me about his alien encounters and how the Men in Black were trying to silence him.
mm,
So that was quite interesting. But yeah, I love stuff like that though. That does sound like something I really need to check out.
mm.
For my next two titles, I need to get into the spirit of things. So I'm gonna get my hat
Oh,
here, and we got to talk about some Christmas movies. And hey, you know what? I don't care if people don't like Christmas or Christmas movies. I do, you do.
yeah.
Last week I reviewed The Polar Express and Elf.
Oh,
I have two more. And yeah, these are like my favorite, like two of my favorite Christmas movies.
mm,
Especially Christmas Vacation, but we'll get to that one.
yeah.
So first is A Christmas Story. This is kind of cool that this is getting a 4K release. There is the sequel coming out very soon. I guess by the time this is out, it'll already be out.
Mm.
So this is a really nice time to get back into A Christmas Story. So let's just take a look at this and the back. So I believe that these are all legacy features. I don't think that there's anything new. So here is the disc. So this does have a digital code that's not in there now. Yeah, I feel like everyone's seen this 100 million times.
Mm.
But it is really classic. I mean, it's kind of wild to think that like Bob Clark made Black Christmas and A Christmas Story, two very different Christmas movies, but they're equally regarded as classics and rightfully so. Scream Factory, as an aside, is doing a 4K of Black Christmas, so you can make it that we were talking about double features. That makes a great double feature. But
Absolutely.
um, yeah, so to kind of sum this movie up, though, it's sort of a humorous take on Christmas set in a small town, and I believe it's like in the Depression era. I think it was
I
like in
think
the
it's, yes.
30s.
It's supposed to be the 40s, I believe.
Oh, 40s, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, Ralphie just wants a BB gun for Christmas. Like that's his, like heart's desire, and it's like a series of events that kind of culminate in his ultimate Christmas and getting that sort of like holy grail Christmas gift. This is a movie that is kind of often imitated, but I think it's really hard to nail that kind of tone that Clark was so good at having a dark sense of humor, but even in this guys, um it kind of balances out maybe like the sentimentality of it. But Bob Clark definitely was known for like his like slices of nostalgia, like this, like Porky's. He was so good at capturing a very specific time and place and feeling specifically. So I think this is one of those movies that is just iconic. It has so many great lines. It has so many like iconic moments. The leg lamp, fragile. I think that's something everybody kind of, it's not fragile anymore. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite movies, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Mhm.
I really like the choice of cover. There's the back. And again, this does have a digital code. It's not in there now. So yeah, this is kind of a Christmas movie for people that kind of hate Christmas, but like still like enjoy it, but see the cynical side of it. And again, just kind of like how Bob Clark's really good at kind of nailing the cynicism and heartwarming stuff. I think John Hughes really, really nails that. Like it's gosh, this is such a perfect movie because it's like there's not really a plot, but it's just a series of wacky events, but you get so invested in these characters that like you really do kind of invest in them, even though they're just like, I don't know, Chevy Chase is just very out there, supposedly not a very nice guy, but is amazing in this. I got to meet Beverly D'Angelo. She wasn't really that nice, unfortunately, but anyways, I have a really great picture of her from this because again, I love this movie so much. This is something we quote in our household also like often. Um, so I wanted to say that like um, there are the 25th anniversary Blu-ray of this was pretty solid, but I think like in terms of overall clarity and color rendering, this looks great. The same goes with A Christmas Story. Like both of these are really fantastic looking. I will say that the skin tones are maybe slightly off in Christmas Vacation. It's not, again, I don't think it's really enough to like overall like distract or detract from it at all, but it's just like something to throw out there. Again, I could definitely see that this is a much needed improvement over the Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray was already kind of solid, but like I think if you're wondering if you should upgrade, I really think that yes, that's an absolute like must. And again, Christmas Story, it's a very colorful movie. And I think this one's an even bigger improvement over the Blu-ray. The black levels are very rich and complex overall. The coloring and the contrast is nice. I mean, I love how like it's so detailed that like you can see like the textures on the clothing. There's no crushing or blooming to be found either. So both of these really look nice, sound great. Like very much worth picking up. I love that they put these out. I kind of wish they would have had some new features, but yeah, they look great. And also it's worth mentioning that the Blu-rays are also upgraded transfers. So even if you have the old Blu-rays, it's worth you know, re-upping. So
Yep. I said last week, but I only had these on DVD, so these are huge upgrades for me. So I'm like so excited to dig in. Like just watch them again and again every year. Like thank you, Warner Brothers. Like you made my Christmas. My next title is from Cauldron Films, and this is Murder in a Blue World by Eloy de la Iglesia, which I absentmindedly got him confused with Alex de la Iglesia, who did like Perdita Durango, but not the same director. This was from the 70s. So, but here's the interior. But I did really enjoy this. This was a wild movie, but once again, another one I think you'd like. Like, I think at least the next two, I think you will probably really like from me. This is pretty much. This comes like 2 years after A Clockwork Orange, and it's very similar in tone. It's like very critiquing of like society and kind of like the authoritarian like this is more so like going towards like an abuse of power with like police and like fascism. And but then there's also like a more minor story where there's like a woman who's a nurse, and she is going around killing people. Like she's picking up like young men, and just like in public she is heralded for like all the good she does as a nurse, but then like she keeps like picking up these young men and like killing them after having sex with them. Then she is like spotted by this other kind of dude who's like out on the streets and starts to try to like blackmail her. But then she kind of tries to turn the tables on him. So it's kind of like, and throughout there's like like different bits of like social commentary and like how advertising is like in everything. They keep going back to like this like energy drink that they keep referencing on the television that's like looks disgusting, but it's supposed to like basically like improve your life immeasurably. So it's just kind of like there's a lot of like commentary about like advertising and like society and how like television has impacted them, but also like just like individual brutality. And there's a lot of like there's a lot of stuff going on. But like my quickest pitch to you would be like Spanish Clockwork Orange, but like not quite as good as like Kubrick, but still very solid and very entertaining. So yeah, this is a wild, brutal movie. And like the performances are really good. I like I said, this wasn't on my radar before this was announced, but I'm glad I saw it. This comes from a new 2K restoration of the Spanish version of the producer's cut, like the original unrated cut of it. So like there are no like cuts like for like content or anything. This is just the pure brutal movie that they wanted to show whenever it was first released. This is packed with special features. It comes with a commentary track, a video essay, a bunch of different featurettes, and this is just a really solid release. Like if you're like this isn't like an Italian like crime film. Like we get like a lot. We talk a lot about Italian crime films, but this is kind of like similar, but in Spain, like Spanish. And there's like both an English and original Spanish version, which definitely stick with the Spanish version. But overall, like I think that like once again, my pitch to you, I think you would really like Murder in a Blue World. Maybe some of our audience would as well, but I know you probably would.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'm looking to make sure this is the same director, and I believe it is. The Severin had put out a few of his other films. If y'all are interested, I can link in the description those films for further watching. He did a really fantastic movie called Cannibal Man, which is about fascism and cannibalism.
Nice.
So yeah, I definitely do want to see that because I really do like that director. I've seen maybe 4 or 5 of his other films, so yeah, I'm already sold. But yeah,
Nice.
so this next release is one that I was really excited about, and then I found out about some new features, and then I was even more excited for, and that is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, 4K
Yes.
with over an hour of deleted scenes that I believe is new to this release.
Mm-hmm.
And check this out. And this is such a classic movie. I love all the John Hughes stuff getting really nice releases. So here is the inside. This will have a digital code, just doesn't have it in my copy right now. But yeah, so I purposely kind of did Christmas Vacation like as my prior previous release, just because this is also another John Hughes comedy. And again, I think that he does such a great job of like wacky, playful, like working class people kind of comedy, but also there's a slight dark edge to it that kind of keeps it from getting a little bit too schmaltzy, but it still like allows it to have a lot of like heart. And somebody like Hughes, I think, just balances that just so like nicely. And I don't want to spoil it. I mean, this is a very old movie, but like if you're new to this, I will say that there's sort of like a when you find out John Candy's backstory, there's kind of a needle rip a little bit, and then it sort of recontextualizes the everything kind of that happened prior to that. But yeah, Steve Martin, you, I mean, he's somebody you either love or you don't.
Mhm.
I think he's fine. I love John Candy though. I'm like, I don't know. I tweeted about John Candy and like everyone was like, "Are you like some like old dad or something?" Like that's kind of. But I don't know. I love. I mean, like I grew up on John Candy movies like this,
Mhm.
Uncle Buck,
Mhm.
Spaceballs. Just so many great. I mean, that's not even really scratching the surface. But anyways, to see all these deleted scenes and extended scenes was really fantastic. There was a video that I watched about like the missing cut of this film done by Hats Off Entertainment, which I will like link in the description. He kind of talks about like all of these scenes, and so it's kind of fun to actually go and see like all of these scenes now. The 4K looks really nice. Again, I think it is like a really huge improvement over like the Blu-ray. If I'm not mistaken, this was previously done on 4K not too long ago. Um, but yeah, this is a really nice presentation. Again, the colors really pop. It's not a I mean, it's not a drab looking movie. I wouldn't say it's like ultra colorful, but you know, the colors really do pop here, and you know, they do a really nice job of um, you know, with the uptick in clarity. Again, you don't really get a lot of that crushing. The
Mhm.
blacks are really nice. Yeah, it's really fantastic. I think that this was shot very well, so you can kind of see the care and attention, and then that is carried over to how it looks, and it sounds great as well. So it's so exciting, and now we got all these deleted scenes. That means more John Candy. So I'm here
Yeah.
for it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm really thankful that Paramount put this out. And this is kind of one of those ultimate Thanksgiving movies. And have you ever seen the movie Dutch?
No.
Have you heard of it?
No.
So it's this like weird kind of Thanksgiving 90s movie with Ed O'Neill sort of in his like height of Married with Children. And it's like really kind of hard to see because like I think there's a Blu-ray, but it's like long out of print. And
Yeah, that's ringing a bell now. Yes, now I remember
um
this. Yeah, I've
yeah,
read about this. Yeah.
he's gotta like travel with this like snot-nosed 90s brat. It's kind of amazing, but I'm just putting it out there. I don't know who owns that, what studio it is, but like, please somebody put that out because I want like to add to my sort of Thanksgiving movies. But anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to dig into all those deleted scenes that have been newly unearthed. So, like you said, thank you, Paramount. That's great. This next title, I think I specifically sought out because of something you said to me earlier this year, and that is that I needed to watch more Lucio Fulci movies,
mm,
and that comes in the form this today of Contraband,
mm.
not horror, crime, and by like whenever you have Lucio Fulci like directing something, it gets gnarly. So I will talk about that in just a second. This is from Cauldron again, similar to the last film. This does have reversible cover art. Um, so this does star Fabio Testi, who starred in the Arrow collection that I talked about earlier this year, Rogue Cops and Robbers, which had like the big racket and uh, I can't remember the other name of the movie, but I talked about that in that era set, and he was really good in that. And he's also very good in this. I really like Fabio Testi. Um, Contraband, it's not very like complex or anything. It's about like a small town guy. He's a criminal, but he's like kind of like just into a little bit of like smuggling with his brother. He's like bringing in like cigarettes and booze and like just kind of he's kind of made to be more like humanized. Like he's not that bad. He's just doing some like cigarette smuggling, whatever. But there is like an outside force that like is suddenly coming into town and wants to basically take over like the area, and he does that by force, and it is with Fulci very brutal force, and it is very like this movie's not super remarkable in a lot of ways, but like it leaves an impression for sure. Like I was watching this earlier and I was like, ooh, that's rough. Like there's a scene where like the villain of this movie like takes a woman's face and like puts basically like the like a Bunsen burner to it and like melts off her cheek and it like shows it. I'm just like, damn, Fulci, you're wild for this one. And then you like see people like get their like jaw shot off and everything in like gun battles or like gunfights. It's Fulci like just doing his thing, but like not in the horror genre. They're bringing like that grotesqueness to it. So if you want like a serviceable like Italian crime thriller with like ample amount of gore, Contraband, that'll do it for you. And like it says, it's like uncensored here, so like it really goes for it. And this comes from a new 4K restoration of the negative. It looks really nice. It's a very like soft looking film, like intentionally so, but like there's like all like the damage and stuff has been cleaned up. It's a really nice transfer. There are a mixture of like new and archival featurettes and interviews. There's an audio commentary. So this is like, once again, this is a like a really stellar release. It's like stacked with special features. So if you're a Fulci fan, this is a good release. It's just like, don't go into it like without knowing what you're getting into, but it's an interesting time.
Yeah, I weirdly enough, I am a big Fulci fan, but I have not seen that one. There's some of his stuff in his filmography that, like, he did a Sword and Sandals film that I'm also Conquest, which I also need to see that one. So that's a good excuse to check that out. Like I said, I'm a big Fulci fan, so that's really cool. I love that a lot of his stuff's, getting really nice re-releases. I don't know what a good segue is from a Fulci film, but this is like whatever the extreme opposite of that film is Blue Hawaii.
Not a
Yeah,
Fulci film.
not a Fulci film. It'd be wild if it was, but so this is the Paramount Presents, and so it has a really nice like open up thing, and then I'm also hearing that like some of these slip covers for the Paramount Presents is getting a little scarce, so that's
Oh,
something also to keep in mind. So there's the back. Um, so this doesn't have a digital code. This isn't in there now. This has the 4K and the Blu-ray, and let me just pop open the disc so you can kind of see the inside.
very nice.
Yeah. So I like Elvis as a singer. I've not really ventured much into his cinematic portfolio. I've seen a few of his films, but um I don't know. They're like fun. They're not particularly deep, but that's fine. There certainly is merit in just something to turn your brain off. So this is a very breezy early 60s Elvis outing, which we see him giving Islanders tours, but he has his own ambitions. And yeah, this this uh this is a lot sometimes. Like just a little bit of some cringy stuff. Let's just say they're very generous with their cultural sort of appropriation, we'll say, and probably put in the nicest way. There's also like a subplot with Elvis and this. She says she's 17,
Ooh.
and he like spanks her. pretty vividly, and that's a whole thing. But yeah, this is it's a fairly fun movie. Again, it's not very plot heavy. You know, you kind of have your standard like once and like all the shenanigans to kind of get to that. But I think everybody's kind of here for Elvis for his songs. This actually famously has when fools rush in, or just
Mhm.
fools rush in, whatever, like that single. And yeah, there's some really fantastic musical set pieces. Again, it's a little cringe because they're kind of using the Islanders as like the backdrop for his big elaborate musical numbers, but they're fun. They definitely harken back to a time where you could actually make kind of a decent budget film just around Elvis.
Yeah.
It's like the thinnest plot, but it's fun enough. And yeah, it looks. I was really curious like how this would look. It's like, you know, from 1961, Technicolor. It looks really nice. There is a little bit of there's no artifacts or scratches. It looks really clean that way. I will say that there's a little bit of slight blurring, and there's some things that really don't have that kind of like focus and depth and field that you would sort of want, but it overall looks really nice. It is a very colorful movie. It is very dynamic in that way, of course. So um, this is you know, shot on different like really nice locales, and like you really do get to soak up that beautiful sort of island vibe. So this restoration really highlights that nicely. Again, it's not flawless, but I think that this is probably a huge upgrade from any previous release. I don't know. This is the first time I'm seeing this in 4K, but it looks really nice. Again, um, there are a lot of like details that kind of pop. The colors are utilized really nicely. You know, there's not they do get that kind of color contrast really nicely. Skin tones, for the most part, look really on point. So, if you are a fan of this film, or you're kind of new to this and you're like hyped for you know, ever since the Laz Berman Elvis, and you want to check out, I believe this movie was referenced in like the sort of bombastic sort of montage of his movie career. So that's kind of why I'm thinking maybe this was like push to get a nice 4K release, which I'm not complaining. I think that I don't necessarily connect with Elvis films like other people do, but it was fun. I didn't have a like an awful time watching it. It's just it's not really my cup of tea. But if
Yeah.
it is, yeah,
Sounds like a solid release for those who really enjoy Elvis, like his movies.
yeah. Again, it's not incredibly deep, but it's more about you just want to see Elvis gyrating and singing, and you know.
Sign me up. Let's do this. My final title. This was an unexpected Christmas movie. I'll just say that. This is from Kino Classics, and this is Some Girls, with a young baby Patrick Dempsey
Oh wow.
and yeah, a young Jennifer Connelly, and this, like, just them two alone. I'm like, all right, let's do this. But it's interesting, like, especially to see Patrick before he really like grew into his like manly looks, and like kind of grew up. This is just him like as like a young college student, and like he falls in love with Jennifer Connelly while he's at college, but she's kind of like a more mysterious figure, and she like leaves like right in the middle of the semester to go like back home because her grandmother is sick, and he's not sure if he's like ever going to like see her again. And then all of a sudden he gets a call out of the blue saying like, "Hey, do you want to come to my family's house over the holidays, over the Christmas break, and spend time with like spend time with me and like meet my family and everything?" And he's like, "Awesome, great. Like I love this girl. I want to be with her, but like I thought she was out of my life." So he goes. She lives in Canada, So she goes to Canada, or he goes to Canada to meet her family, and it's just this particular set of events. It's I will just say this: I do quite like this movie, but it is very much like a male fantasy driven movie, but with heart, and I will explain. So basically, how this plays out is like once he gets there and like he's like happy to be connected with Jennifer, she tells him like straight up like, "Oh, I think I shouldn't have invited you up here. I don't think I want to be your girlfriend, but like we can still be friends and stuff." And he starts to like he's sent into a spiral. But then throughout this movie, like her and her two sisters, like all at each different time seem to like kind of throw themselves at him,
Mm.
and like just kind of like it's just kind of like a family affair of just like he keeps getting into these awkward situations. Like he sees one of her like older sisters like walking naked through the hallway, or like one of the other sisters like sneaks into his bed in the middle of the night. So it's just kind of like these weird situations where it's like, oh, this seems like a male fantasy. But like there is some depth to it, because right in the middle of all of this, her grandmother still like is legitimately sick, and he whenever he like accompanies them to visit her, she pegs him and thinks that he is her late husband, and she kind of gets confused because she's like not completely cognizant. So he gets confused as her late husband, and where this could lead to some really zany, like awkward situations, which there are some like kind of awkward moments. This leads to like a really rich emotional place where instead of just becoming like a typical like sex comedy where it's like how do I like deal with all these sisters, it really becomes like a tale of him learning to just not be so like keyed up and like extra, and like really like he forms a really nice emotional bond with the grandmother, and there's like some really like sensitively portrayed sequences near the end, like as like this woman is kind of like reckoning with her life and like thinking that she's talking to her late husband, and just kind of how that works out. It's a really surprisingly sweet moment where like there are some moments that are very cringy in the movie, but then there's also some really sweet moments where this could have went full like 80s sex comedy. It does not go there. And despite some misgivings here and there, it's a really nice movie. And like I said, it takes place over Christmas, so there's like a snowy backdrop and there's art festivities. So it's like it's a nice addition to the season, which you probably would not like peg just from like the cover art or something, or like the title or even the description. Like this is a Christmas movie and it gives you like some nice feelings, but it's like it's way different than I expected to be, but in like a good way. So like it's surprisingly well handled for this time, especially. And this like it doesn't come with a new scan from what I can tell, but it's like a nice solid older master. There's not too much in the way of damage or anything. It looks pretty nice. Comes with a commentary track from the director, and like another featurette with the director, and like a trailer. So it's like got a few special features, but overall this was like a surprise for me. I enjoyed this. So
Nice.
Some Girls is it's a pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. It's funny with Patrick Dempsey because he's in Disenchanted
Oh
and
yeah.
he did that press conference. So it was kind of interesting to like see him in the flesh, as it were.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds really interesting. I my next one I think is also just kind of fine. That's Jerry and Marge Go Large.
Mm.
And the back. And so this has a digital code that's not in there right now. There's disk. Yeah, so I'm not gonna like do a huge review of this because I can, if you want to hear my full ramblings on it, I can put my review in the description. But I will just say that I kind of love and respect that a mid-budget movie not based on any prior IP got made with a nice cast. Bryan Cranston's great. Annette Bening, my gosh, we love her. We stan her. They're all great. I think I think they kind of elevate it more than it really deserves. It's I kind of say this in my review, but to simplify things, it's sort of that like all shucks small town, we're just simple folk and we're trying to get by, and but they're, Bryan Cranston's character is really interesting because he's so intelligent, and like they kind of game the system a little bit, but those Gen Xers, they're like it's written by somebody that is, you can like tell. I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this. You can tell somebody of advanced age wrote this film.
Yeah.
To get back at those kids on his lawn, that's just kind of the essence of this movie. But it's fine. I don't think it's necessarily a bad movie. I just think it's very, I know I talk a lot about how John Hughes could find that sort of sweet spot between sentimentality with a little bit of an edge, and this just goes full Andy Griffith kind of sickeningly sweet. And listen, if you're in the mood for that, no judgments here. I just think that it tips its hat a little bit too much into that, and where it becomes kind of hokey and cheesy, but not like in a fun way. So this release doesn't have any features. It's just sort of the movie. It's a newer movie, so it looks fine. The transfer is really nice. When I watched it, it was like festival screener, so it was like, not as dynamic as the Blu-ray. So, if you do want to see this, I think this is a nicer option than just streaming it. Yeah, Jerry and Marge Go Large, fine. It's perfectly serviceable. I think it's more of like an older kind of crowd that hates those darn Gen Zs, and yeah, it's something. But
They can't all be a
um
10 out of 10.
yeah, but like it's a good release though. I mean, it would have been nice to have a commentary track, or it would have been nice to kind of hear the director's thought on some of his choices, but like it's well acted. Again, the principal cast is fantastic. So it's an all right time. I think you can just sort of gauge whether or not this is something that's going to connect with you. It sucks to end on such a maybe middling point, but yeah, I don't know. This was yeah, that's my last title, and I guess that's it for the episode. But we had a lot of fun talking about some very wide-ranging titles,
Yeah.
and I got an excuse to break out the Santa hat, so that's always good.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to anyone who's watching the week of this was
Oh,
released.
right. Um, yeah, so as always, you know, we do this every week, so be sure to subscribe, like the video, comment. We're not doing a comment giveaway this week, but we still want to hear from you. Tell us what you like that we covered, what should be on our radar that's newly came out. There's so much stuff coming out that we can't get to them all right away. So, what should be on our radar? And as always, thank you for hanging out with us.